Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special conversation with Annette Miller, who is an extraordinary actress, a wonderful tour de force actress. You actually have been doing a one-woman show, Golda's Balcony, where for the entirety of the play, it is you on stage as Golda, start to finish. And there is no time like right now for the story of Golda. So Annette, I wanted to ask you here in this Gann Chapel, what do you think the resonance of the story of Golda is for our time now, especially post October 7th?
Well, you know, the play is her journey. I mean, it starts with a phone call, she tells everyone, with a phone call that she got 4 o'clock in the morning, Saturday, Yom Kippur, 1973. And suddenly here we are with a similar phone call that happened October 7th. And it's chilling for me. It's just chilling. She has a line on the second page. It says, half my cabinet generals, and not one of them could smell yesterday that today it's war. You know, so that's pretty heart-rending. And, you know, we thought that was behind us. And what happened that day, we'll never understand. And so, what is the resonance, you know, today? You know, she says it in the play. The fate of Israel is at stake. It is. And so for me, it's very resonant. And it's very today, but the important thing is that she was also full of hope. She also had such a will, such a desire for that state to be. What does she say? Ben-Gurion said it would be the homeland for the redemption of the human race. I mean, that was a big order, but that's what she was hoping. I think we were all looking for a homeland for us, and never quite have felt so unsafe. I'm not speaking to, I haven't spoken to many Israelis, but, you know, I think it's a different country there now. I don't know, but the feeling of safety certainly has to be doubted much more now.
Now, you began this role, you began production before October 7th. What drew you initially to the story of Golda?
So I actually performed this show in 2002. It was created, I created the role then. And so then, I think 9/11 had just happened. You know, it was very weird. And Israel was just in a different place. And it was more of a history lesson. And it's always inspiring because she talks about the absolute need for Israel, for the Jewish people, for our peoplehood. I mean, you know, she has, her first memory is of a pogrom in Russia. So that's where she's coming from, I think. Her earliest memory is of the pogroms in Russia. And so she went off, 1921, 2 dozen young idealists sailing off to utopia. And so it shows the whole struggle. So what drew me to it now, it's sort of interesting because the artistic director, Alan Burrows, said to me last January, when he thinks of the season, what about we revive Golda? And people had been asking me. And I thought, okay. And then suddenly the protests started. When did the protests start?
Yeah,
like,
more than a year.
Yeah, I mean, like March, before. And so we did the show last summer, and there were all these protests going on. And I only felt Golda would have been right there with them protesting.
Really?
Oh, yes, it was a tremendous impetus for me. She would have been, protesting. And then this now. So it's a fascinating thing to me about my art form. You say the same words in a different time, and you are suddenly in a different place. I'm 22 years older. We did it in 22. The world has changed. We all hear things differently. We see things differently. And so and it's different every night anyway, because the audience is always different. So it's just very exciting and live each time I do it. Wow. Yeah.
As you inhabit Golda, what are some of the lessons that you have learned from her story that have shaped your own, or that you think should shape ours?
Well, we could all be like Golda. I mean, she's looking at her life. She's like 73, I think, at the time of the play. And, it's after she's resigned, although she looks back. And she looks at the choices she made and ends up saying and feeling, and I feel with her, that she made the choices she had to with her life, with her family. That was a problem for her. And she was dedicated. So what I get from it, what I think we could all get from that, is that kind of dedication to and passion for something that is at the very core of your existence, and to just go for it. I think that's the only thing that will take us through, to have a passion for something you must do, and kind of zone into how you relate to the rest of the world, what you need and what you have to have for you will in some way contribute to the world. I mean, we all can't be Golda.
I'm pushing that a little bit farther. It's called Golda's balcony, right?
So that's the balcony.
So as Golda gets on her balcony, looking over the rest of her life.
No, she's looking at something else. She's on that balcony. She has many balconies she speaks of in her life.
Yes, tell us.
She has the balcony where she looks out on the Mediterranean and she sees the ships arriving.
The literal balcony.
Right. Yes. She's looking out on the Mediterranean and she sees the ships arriving with the exiles, the survivors, the refugees. She sees that. She hears her son play the celloist that her husband wished he was. And then Golda's balcony is her observation post, which she visited so often that they called it Golda's balcony, into Dimona. And she describes that, and that's huge.
Tell us a little bit more about Dimona, because I was told that there's a very intense scene in Golda's balcony where she is trying to exert some pressure to get arms.
Well, we don't want to give the whole play away.
We don't want to give the whole play away, to get arms into Israel. And there is a pretty intense moment
Yes.
with a potential nuclear
Yes. It's the hardest phone
escalation.
call I ever made.
Tell me about that scene. Tell me its meaning for you. Is that based in the historic understanding of what happened? How much of that is fictionalized? How much of that is history?
She says that she gives that message to Dinitz, her, I guess the ambassador, no, not the ambassador, I guess he was the person in Washington for her, and says to go and tell Kissinger that our nuclear bombs are loaded and operational. What do you do with that? So, and then she says, but Simca demanded that he and Kissinger be alone for their meeting to hear her message. So no record exists of what was said. So, fiction or not, no record exists of what she threatened Kissinger. It's amazing. Gibson, William Gibson, the writer, researched this. He did another play about Golda, just called Golda, with all the characters on the stage. 13, Diane was there, and all of them, Dotto, everyone, Perez. And this was different because he went back over there and he looked at her calendar of her days. She was no longer alive, and he said to her assistant, what are all these X's on these days on the calendar? And that was when she was in Dimona, observing, seeing what was going on there. So she was there, obviously. I mean, she was the prime minister. And she says something really marvelous at the end. She says about the temple weapons, which is what they call them, the temple weapons, I can't answer. And then she has her memory of when she was a child, but 75 years ago. I don't want to give away the whole thing, but it's kind of wonderful. So, it feels to me that she's asking the big question, what happens when idealism becomes power?
Such an important question.
To save a world you create, how many worlds are you entitled to destroy? It's heavy.
Wow.
Yeah.
A really important question.
Yeah.
That,
I don't know any answers.
Is that question resolved for you in your embodiment of Golda, or is it more
the question is not
there?
resolved. Yeah, it's left out there. The question is not resolved, but it's an important question that we all have to ask each other, ourselves.
So you like to do talkbacks after
I do.
play.
I do, because the audience always wants to know what's happening.
So what are some of the important questions that people ask? What are some of the most interesting questions for you that you've been asked? And what are some of the unresolved questions?
It's hard. It's hard for me to know now what the questions were, because I'm after the show when we do those questions, when they ask us. And a lot of it is about my preparation for the show and how I inhabited Golda and my research and all of that. And for the most part, people begin to talk about what they believe, what is happening at the moment, whatever the moment is in Israel. So it's sort of going to be interesting this time. I mean, they don't put me on the, on the stand. Annette, what do you think about this? But they talk about it themselves. And so I think what happens is that when a community gathers, they get to express their feelings, what came up for them. And so I can't really say what questions, it depends who my guest is. I'm very excited. We're going to have Jonathan Sarner give a talk back for us. Shula Reinhardt is going to join me. Mark Baker from the CJP will join me. We have a few others that we're hoping will come along as well. And we'll find out what's most important about the play for me, why I feel it is so important to do now, is that you get a chance to look at the beginnings of Israel as well, because this is her journey. And so I don't think the kids who are in college now know anything about the beginnings. I mean, I really don't think they know their history. I think, Israel came on the map October 7th. Do you know what I mean? I don't think they understand the struggles. They don't know the past wars. They don't know about 47, 48, 56, 73. They really don't. They don't know what it meant. And so I think they get a chance to understand through Golda the struggle for our people, the necessity for our home, and what our dreams are for the home if you'll just let us live. I mean, we've made such marvelous progress, unbelievable, in the 75 years. It's unbelievable. And so if one could keep on that track with everything else trying to pull us down, that'd be nice.
Amen to that. What is a Temple Emmanuel member going to find at Golda's balcony?
I think they're going to be able to participate with me in the journey and ask to themselves the same questions that she's asking. And because it's very real. So when you're in a theater, I mean, the idea is to have something happen to you. And we sold out this summer. I'm hoping we'll sell out now because people felt recognized. They saw themselves in that. They saw their struggle. They saw maybe where they have to go, what they can do, make them more connected with their own passion. I think that's what would happen. That's what I hope. And of course she ends with saying, Shalom. She can't say goodbye without one word, the best, Shalom. Shalom. And, it's pretty hard to get that. It's what we have to work for. And it's got lots of her humor in it, too. She was known for her quips. She was so fast. She had an answer, and she was so down to earth. I mean, she was the only prime minister we've ever had that actually didn't serve in the army. all of them have been in the army. I mean, that's the progression in Israel. The army is their Harvard. I mean, let's not talk about that now. Oh, dear.
What is your favorite piece of Golda that you are able to embody? Is it her humor? Is it her longing? Is it her questions? Which piece really continues to come up again and again for you?
Her passion. Her passion, her struggle. You know, to leave this world in a better place than she found it. And it just doesn't look that way right now. You know? I mean, I never thought in my life, you know, I graduated from Brandeis in 1958. It was 10 years after Israel. I mean, Brandeis University was founded the same year as the State of Israel, 1948. And I never kind of thought that we would be in this place now where it's tenuous. I mean, we'll survive, and then we have to decide who we are as a people and what kind of a country we can be. I mean, those are evolving questions. You know, things change. I think that's okay. We don't remain the same, but you have to know what direction you're going to go in at some point. And I think mostly the play will make people think and feel. It's one thing to live up here, but if you really get involved in your gut, you combine those two, I think when you begin to listen to what's really inside you and be honest with that, which is what I have to do on stage, you become you should be a little clearer thinker if you connect with something inside you.
Does Golda's Balcony have a teaching on regret? Right? As we look through our lives, any of our lives, not just Golda's, but any of us, as we look back through our lives and how they have been lived.
Well, you know, it's interesting. She definitely has regret. I mean, listen, she never forgave herself for the Yom Kippur War. She just didn't. You know, just to kill, to have her boys, she calls, killed, was, how did that happen under her? You know, so yes, that's a huge regret. I don't think she ever regretted her path. I think she had problems, and it's kind of beautiful, beautiful moments in the play with her memory of Morris, her husband, and their relationship, and what she had to do to be who she was. And yes, I mean, I think that she feels bad about that, but doesn't regret the path that she took. I don't think there are any regrets about the path that she took. And there's a wonderful book out now called 18 Days in October about that war. And it turns out that for someone who was not in the army, not military, she made some very, very good decisions. You know, that she was really quite good with the military advice that she got and how to do it. So the book is quite redeeming when they talk about her, which made me feel really good, because I think she went through a bad time in Israel. You know, people didn't forgive her for a long time, and now, interestingly enough, I think she's coming back. Do you get that feeling? Yeah.
Certainly, people are very intrigued by her story.
Yeah.
And I love your idea that in some ways her story, while none of us are Golda, can fill us with a sense of purpose.
Purpose.
And I want to ask you, Annette Miller, what purpose, what kind of energy does Golda's story fill you with when you're on and off stage?
That's, I so completely get into her head that it takes me a bit to get off. I have found myself to be much more, what would I say? I get to anger more easily as I am preparing for her. I've noticed that about what I'm doing. I mean, I feel so strongly now about the smallest thing that I do. I mean, so that there's a lot of passion about accomplishing something, getting it done, getting the people around you to help you do it. I think that's from Golda. I think it's hard to live with. But she does, she's powerful. And you understand struggle. You also understand that there are no simple answers. I mean, she listened to everything. She watched. She was aware. She, before she made her decisions. I think she heard things very well, and how she missed that, she doesn't know. Because there were warnings in '73 as well. And so I think in her memory, what happened at the end fills her memory and how she looks at the beginning. I think that happens to us, when you look at yourself from where you are now is different than you were then, and you view things differently. So she recognizes, her through line about, wanting to have a paradise. And she realized that was unreasonable. And she says, when you're young, that does not seem unreasonable. When she quotes Ben-Gurion, the homeland for the redemption of the human race. I mean, what chutzpah? What country can ever be that? But when you're young, you can. So that energy of hers, of wanting that and realizing it couldn't be.
Now, I've been told that in the audience at Golda's balcony, people forget to breathe. That's
what they said. I don't know. I have to breathe a lot.
So I want to ask you about that. What is that like for you to be part of that environment that is so immersive? How do you feel about being a part of that?
No, I feel alive. I feel very much alive on stage. I feel alive with the people that are in the audience, that we're all here together. And I'm saying these words, I'm feeling these words, and hopefully you are too. I'm sort of talking to empty chairs here. And it's very fulfilling. I mean, I wouldn't do it if it weren't. I mean, it makes you feel that you do have some kind of impact, or that even for the moment, to imagine that people will change their lives, I don't think so. But even if it happens then, we have to be happy for that.
That there's one thing in this play, in this moment, that causes us to ask a different question about our lives.
About our lives, about who we are, what we want, what we really want, and what's going to be. I mean, the question all around is what's going to be. And there are no answers, are there? So we just know the moment, right?
So my last question for you, what do you feel that Golda's Torah for this moment is
You know?
for Israel and for us in the diaspora.
Well, I think she was pretty strong. I think, look, she says, but it doesn't seem to be what's going on now. She says in the play, she says that we'll each find it's written in the Torah for a homeless people to find their place. I mean all people, even our neighbors, including our neighbors who want a state too. And she says nothing, that can happen if you would only grant us one right to exist here. So, I mean, she came at the end. I don't think that Golda was a great lover of the Palestinians. Her life, she was very busy fighting all the time. I mean, there were riots all the time. I mean, there were big wars, but there were always riots. But she came at the end of her life to say that the Palestinians needed a state. I mean, so I don't know what the lesson is. I don't know how one goes about it if we knew that. But so your question was, what is the lesson?
Yeah, what would be her life lesson, her Torah, something that she taught, something that mattered to her that we could apply now to this moment that we face as a Jewish people, that Israel faces today?
I mean, to me, she is, you've just got to go on. You just have to do the work and go on. And Abdullah says to her, only the Spirit makes life fruitful. She says, work doesn't hurt. I mean, you've got to do the work for it. So I think that's inspiring. I mean, for me, that's what I get at. We can't dream and we can't just pray. We have to pray, but we have to do the work. So
pray and the work goes on
and on
and on, and so.
And I think she was all for that. I think that's what's so exciting about it. So come see it.
And so our prayer for you in front of this ark here is, may you, Annette, go on and on.
Thank you.
And may we continue to be inspired by your gift of telling Golda's story.
Thank you so much. I feel so blessed. So blessed. When I was first given the script, I said, who am I? Who am I to take on this woman? And so I have learned a lot from her. She never shirked from a challenge, and she prepared for the challenges. And she had some sort of inner, I don't know where you get that, confidence. She had that a bit, that I can just do it. I'm here to learn. I'm excited by something. And, yeah, I can go for it. And I think that's kind of nice if we all walked away with that.
Amen.
So come and see it on February 23rd to March 10th. February 23rd to March 10th at the Jackie Liebergott Theater at the Paramount Center in downtown Boston on Washington Street.
We'll look forward to hearing all of your thoughts, God willing, of what you experienced when you go to see Golda's balcony. Thank you, Annette.
Thank
it was
you.
a privilege
Thank
to
you,
speak
darling.
with you today.
Thank you, darling. Thank you. Always good to speak with you.